Varick's feathered crest fluttered nervously as he addressed the assembled militia. The morning light filtered through the canopy above, casting dappled shadows across the clearing where 30 of his people, farmers, merchants, and craftsmen all, stood clutching their hastily modified pulse rifles, their wings tucked neatly against their backs. "Listen carefully," he chittered, his translator struggling to convey the urgency in his voice. "The Council has declared resistance, but there are rules we must follow if we wish to survive this occupation." He raised a taloned hand, extending his primary wing digit. "First, and most important, do not shoot at the black boots." A confused murmur rippled through the gathered Kirthani, wings shuffling restlessly. "The what?" called out Merrick, a broad-winged farmer whose family had lost their ancestral airy lands to the human terraforming operations. "You mean the two legs?" "Second," Varick continued, extending another digit, ignoring the interruption. "Do not engage when they deploy their sensor drones, the small hovering machines that precede their patrols. They are not combat units. They are extensions of the Black Boots' senses. Destroy one, and they will know exactly where you are, and they will come in force." He extended a third talon. "Third, if you must resist, target their supply chains, their automated harvesters, their communication relays, never their medical facilities or their dwelling units. The Black Boots make distinctions between military and civilian targets. If we blur that line, they will erase all lines entirely." The militia members exchanged nervous glances, their crest feathers rising and falling with uncertainty. Varick knew they were skeptical. The Council had been feeding them stories of easy victories against human outposts on other worlds, carefully edited tales that omitted the devastating retaliations that inevitably followed. "I mean specifically the ones who wear the black foot coverings," Varick clarified, his translucent nictitating membrane sliding over his raptor-like eyes in a gesture of deep concern. "The humans have different castes, different roles. The ones in the soft brown coverings or the blue uniforms, they follow predictable protocols. But the Black Boots, they are called Marines, are different." "Different how?" asked Scylla, his niece, who had joined the militia despite his protests. Varick's crest flattened against his skull. "Before the occupation of our world, I was a xenobiological researcher. I studied hundreds of human military engagements across a dozen worlds. The pattern is unmistakable. When provoked, the Black Boots respond with disproportionate force." "What does that mean?" someone called from the back. "It means," Varick said slowly, "that if you shoot at one of them, they don't just shoot back. They call in their skybirds. They bring their rolling thunder machines. They flatten everything within sight of where the shot came from." He clicked his beak together grimly. "The humans have a phrase, force multiplier. The Black Boots are not warriors as we understand them. They are living weapon systems, connected to an arsenal that can erase towns from orbit." Merrick scoffed, his crest feathers rising in challenge as he flexed his powerful wing joints. "Superstition. The Council says all humans bleed the same. Besides, they can't fly. We have the advantage of the skies." "The Council," Varick said carefully, his wings flexing unconsciously with anxiety, "has not witnessed what I have. On Targussus 4, an aerial farming settlement fired on a patrol of Black Boots. 3 human soldiers were injured, none killed. In response, the Black Boots called in an orbital strike that turned 40 square kilometers to glass, including everything in the airspace above." Silence fell over the group, broken only by the distant whir of human transport vehicles moving along the valley road. "We can resist," Varick continued. "We can sabotage their equipment, disrupt their supply lines, target their administrative personnel, but I am begging you, as someone who wishes to see our people survive this occupation, do not engage the Black Boots." 3 days later, Varick was helping tend to the wounded in their hidden airy camp nestled high in the massive canyon trees when the distant whine of pulse rifles echoed through the forest. His crest feathers shot up in alarm when he recognized the distinct high-pitched tone of a sensor drone being destroyed. followed immediately by the deeper report of weapons fire directed at the black boots themselves. His 3 rules broken in rapid succession. He abandoned the medical supplies, spreading his wings and launching himself toward the sound, already knowing it was too late. By the time he soared over the ridge overlooking the valley road, his worst fears were confirmed. He could see Merrick and 5 others diving and swooping between the massive trees, raining down fire from multiple angles at a human patrol. A patrol of black boots. 2 humans were down, taking cover behind their hovering transport. Another was speaking urgently into their neural comms. The rest were returning fire with methodical precision, their targeting systems struggling to lock on to the rapidly moving Kirthani warriors. To his horror, Varric spotted the remains of a sensor drone spiraling down through the foliage, its gravitic engine sputtering as it fell. And in the clearing beyond, the smoldering ruins of what had clearly been a small human medical station, its Red Cross symbol still visible on a fragment of the wall. All 3 rules broken beyond redemption. No, no, no! Varric trilled in his native tongue, forgetting his translator in his panic. He banked sharply and accelerated toward Merrick, his wings cutting through the air. "Cease fire, Merrick, stop!" Merrick executed a perfect aerial roll to avoid human counterfire, his crest feathers flushed with the thrill of combat. "We've got them pinned. They can't target us properly. More flyers on the way." "You fool!" Varric collided mid-air with Merrick, nearly knocking the pulse rifle from his talons. "You've doomed us all. You shot down their sensor drone, attacked the Black Coots directly, and targeted a medical facility. We need to evacuate the skies, now!" The distinctive whine of human combat drones reached them before Varric could say more, a high-pitched harmonic that cut through the air, growing louder by the second. "That's just their medical transport drones," Merrick said dismissively, hovering with powerful wing beat. "We've read their protocols." Varric's nictitating membranes blinked rapidly in terror. "Those aren't medical transports." Within seconds, the skies filled with sleek predatory shapes, not the bulky medical vessels Varric had expected, but combat drones with adaptive AI, their gravitic engines barely audible as they reached attack velocity. Behind them came the distinctive shimmer of atmospheric distortion, gravitic assault platforms, and something much worse. The dreaded Archangel battlesuits that could atomize a mountain with their shoulder-mounted particle cannons. But the Council said they wouldn't risk damaging the mining infrastructure, Merrick stammered, his crest feathers flattening against his skull in sudden fear. Varric watched in horror as the first squadron of drones formed a perfect 3-dimensional containment grid in the air, their targeting systems locking onto every Kirthani heat signature. "The Black Boots don't care about infrastructure, Merrick. They care about one thing: overwhelming response." He grabbed his kinsman's wing and pulled him into a steep dive. "Everyone scatter to the deep forest." The first energy pulses hit before most could react, creating blossoming spheres of ionized air that disrupted their flight feathers' electrical field. Warriors fell from the sky like broken toys, trees vaporized. The world became searing light and ozone and chaos. Varric and Merrick barely made it to the lower canopy when the second wave of nanoswarm munitions hit. The blast of microscopic hunters tracked their heat signatures through the foliage, and Varric felt a searing pain across his wings as thousands of nanites embedded in his flight feathers, disabling their aerodynamic properties. From their position in the undergrowth, wings now useless and dragging limply behind them, they watched as the Black Boots methodically secured the 3-dimensional space. More gravitic platforms arrived, more soldiers in powered armor, all wearing those distinctive black foot coverings that had become synonymous with death in Varric's nightmares. "I don't understand," Merrick whispered, his voice trembling as he tried and failed to flex his disabled wings. "We only killed 2 of them, and we had the advantage of flight." "You injured 2, Varric corrected, wincing as nanites continued to deactivate the neural connections to his flight muscles. "And that was enough. They don't think like us, Merrick. They don't calculate proportional responses. When threatened, they don't aim to win. They aim to ensure no one ever threatens them again. and they've been fighting gravity since their species began. They've mastered the skies without wings. In the valley below, the Black Boots were establishing a containment field that extended from the forest floor to 5 kilometers above. More combat drones formed a perfect dome of surveillance. In the distance, Varric could see the massive canyon trees where their airy camps had been hidden, now collapsing in controlled demolition. "How many of these Black Boots are there?" Merrick asked. His earlier aerial confidence completely evaporated. Varric's beak clicked shut in a grim approximation of a human smile. "That's the thing you don't understand. There are never just a few Black Boots. Injure one and suddenly there are hundreds. Attack them and you'll find they have reserves beyond counting, and technology that renders our evolutionary advantages meaningless." He watched as a human officer in a sleek exosuit surveyed the three-dimensional battlefield, neural implants communicating silently with the combat swarms. More troops in Archangel battle armor were deploying through the forest canopy, moving as comfortably in the air as any Kirthani. "The ones who came first, the administrators and terraformers, they told us the occupation would be peaceful if we cooperated," Varric said quietly. "We should have listened, because now they've called in their Black Boots, and the Black Boots don't leave until they're satisfied." "Satisfied with what?" Merrick asked. His voice-feathered crest lay completely flat against his skull, a sign of utter submission, with making an example so terrifying that no one would ever consider resistance again. In the air above, more Black Boots arrived on personal gravitic platforms, their movements disciplined and purposeful, dominating the sky that had once been the exclusive domain of the Kirthani. Varric knew what came next. He had seen it on world after world. The humans had a name for it, a doctrine as old as their species' first hesitant steps into warfare, refined over millennia and carried to the stars in the polished Black Boots of their elite warriors. Shock and awe. "May our ancestors who gave us wings forgive us," Varric whispered, "for what we have brought upon our skies." Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave it a like and to subscribe if you'd like to see more. Feel free to comment and share it as well. With all that said, go on and check out the video in the top left. I think you might like it.